I'm Abigail, 34 years old, living in Boston with my 3 rescue cats who mean the world to me. Last weekend at my niece Emily's 8th birthday party, my sister Natalie delivered the ultimate humiliation. Still playing house with your cats instead of having a real family? She mocked as everyone erupted in laughter. Years of her condescension finally reached a breaking point. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments and hit subscribe to join me as I share how I finally stood up for myself and changed my family dynamic forever. Growing up in suburban Massachusetts, my sister Natalie and I couldn't have been more different. 3 years my senior, Natalie was always the golden child, beautiful, popular, and following the traditional life path our parents had envisioned. She was homecoming queen, captain of the cheerleading squad, and seemed to navigate social situations with an effortlessness I could never understand. I was the quieter sister, more comfortable with books than parties. While Natalie went on countless dates and was crowned prom queen, I was earning academic scholarships and dreaming of becoming a veterinarian. I still remember my parents attending every single one of Natalie's cheerleading competitions, while they made it to perhaps 1 in 3 of my science fairs, even when I advanced to state finals. Your sister is building important social connections. My mother would explain when I expressed disappointment. Those skills will serve her well in finding a good husband and building a family. The unspoken implication was always clear. My academic pursuits were somehow less valuable than Natalie's social accomplishments. By the time we reached adulthood, our paths had diverged even further. Natalie married James, her college sweetheart. At 23, James came from old money, his family owning several car dealerships across New England. Their wedding was extravagant, a 300-guest affair at a historic mansion with no expense spared. My parents beamed with pride throughout the entire event, introducing Natalie to distant relatives as our daughter who married into the Williamson family. Within 2 years, Natalie and James welcomed their son, Tyler, followed by daughter Emily. 3 years later, they purchased a 5-bedroom colonial in the most exclusive neighborhood in our hometown, a massive property with perfectly manicured lawns, a swimming pool, and a 3-car garage housing James's collection of luxury vehicles. Meanwhile, I was completing my veterinary residency, specializing in feline medicine. I worked 80-hour weeks, pulling overnight shifts at emergency clinics while completing my advanced training. I eventually settled into a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood. Small by suburban standards, but perfect for city living, with large windows overlooking a tree-lined street and walking distance to the specialty veterinary hospital where I now serve as head of feline medicine. My apartment might not be a sprawling suburban mansion, but it's filled with warmth and personality. Colorful artwork from local artists adorns the walls. Bookshelves overflow with veterinary journals and mystery novels, and yes, there are trees and toys integrated throughout the space. It's my sanctuary after long days saving animals' lives. My 3 cats each came to me through my work. Luna, a one-eyed tabby, was brought to our clinic as a kitten after being found in a dumpster with a severe infection that cost her an eye. After performing her surgery and nursing her back to health, I couldn't bear to put her up for adoption. Milo, my black and white tuxedo cat, was a former feral who needed 6 months of patient socialization before he would let anyone touch him. Now, he's the first to greet visitors, though he remains wary of sudden movements. Whiskers, my senior orange tabby, came to me when his elderly owner passed away and the family planned to euthanize him rather than deal with his manageable thyroid condition and arthritis. At 12 years old, he's now living his best life on prescribed medication and specialized care. Family gatherings have always been challenging. Last Christmas dinner, Natalie commented on my new haircut by saying, "It's nice you're finally putting some effort into your appearance. You might still find someone willing to settle down with you." When I mentioned being considered for a promotion, she responded with, "That's great, you have your little cat doctor job to keep you busy while you wait for real life to begin." At our mother's 60th birthday celebration, Natalie cornered me by the punch bowl. Mom's hinting she wants more grandchildren while she's still young enough to enjoy them. Too bad you're so focused on your career? When I mentioned I was perfectly fulfilled without children, she laughed and said, "You'll change your mind when your biological clock starts ticking louder than your cat's purring." The family reunion last summer was particularly difficult. Distant relatives I hadn't seen in years kept asking when I would follow in Natalie's footsteps and settle down. My cousin's new wife asked if I was still single or finally dating someone serious. Through it all, Natalie stood by with a smug smile, occasionally adding helpful comments like, "Abby's married to her job and her cats. We've accepted she's just different." Through all these encounters, I've maintained my composure. I smile politely, change the subject, or sometimes just walk away. I've prioritized family harmony over my own dignity, telling myself that confrontation wouldn't change anything. My parents have always subtly reinforced Natalie's perspective with comments about how they hope I'll find the right man soon, or how fulfilling grandchildren are. I've built a life I'm proud of, saving animals daily, mentoring younger veterinarians, publishing research in respected journals. I have deep friendships, travel adventures, and the freedom to pursue my passions. Yet somehow, in the presence of my family, all these accomplishments seem to evaporate, leaving me feeling like the awkward, inadequate little sister again. The invitation to Emily's 8th birthday arrived via text from Natalie 3 weeks before the event. Princess theme. Saturday the 10th, 2 p.m. Emily wants you there. Gifts from the approved list only. The approved list followed in a second text. Links to expensive toys from high-end stores, most featuring popular cartoon princesses. No books, no science kits, nothing educational, just plastic and pink. I spent hours searching for the perfect gift, wanting to honor Emily's interests while also nurturing her natural curiosity. My niece had recently mentioned being fascinated by a nature documentary we'd watched together during her last visit. After careful consideration, I selected a high-quality children's microscope with prepared slides and a kit for collecting and examining her own specimens. It was educational but still fun, wrapped in shimmery purple paper with a big silver bow princess colors without being overtly princess-themed. As I drove to Natalie's house that Saturday, I rehearsed conversations in my head. "Great to see you, Natalie. How have you been? Emily will love the microscope. She mentioned being interested in science last time we talked. The house looks beautiful as always." Safe, neutral topics that wouldn't give Natalie ammunition. I sat in my car outside their imposing house for several minutes, giving myself a pep talk. "It's just a few hours. You're here for Emily, you can handle anything for Emily." Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the carefully wrapped gift and made my way up the stone walkway to the front door. Natalie's home was a showcase of her picture-perfect life. The entrance opened into a 2-story foyer with a crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. To the right, their formal living room contained white furniture that looked too pristine to ever be used. To the left, a dining room featured an enormous table set with china and crystal. Despite this being a children's birthday party, the backyard had been transformed into a princess wonderland. A bounce house castle dominated one corner, while a canopy-covered tables draped in pink linens and adorned with centerpieces that must have cost more than my monthly cat food budget. A professional photographer circulated capturing candid moments, and a face painter had set up station near the custom-built playground. Uniformed servers carried trays of both child-friendly snacks and adult hors d'oeuvres. I spotted James first, looking somewhat harried as he directed the setup of what appeared to be a chocolate fountain. His normally perfectly styled hair was slightly disheveled, and he kept checking his watch. "Abigail," he called when he spotted me. "Thank goodness someone normal is here." Between the princess performers, the pony handler, and the caterers, I'm about to lose my mind.
"Pony?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, a unicorn is arriving in 30 minutes.
"God help us all." He rolled his eyes but smiled. "Emily's been asking when you'd get here. She's over by the gift table with some of her friends." I made my way across the lawn, nodding hello to clusters of parents I vaguely recognized from previous family events. Emily spotted me and broke away from her friends, running full speed in her princess dress. "Aunt Abby!" she shrieked, throwing her arms around my waist. "You came?" Mom said you might be too busy with sick cats to come to my party. I hugged her tight, shooting a glance toward the house where Natalie had emerged onto the patio. I would. Never miss your birthday, Em, no matter what. Emily grabbed my hand and pulled me toward her friends, excitedly introducing me as her aunt who saves cats' lives and knows everything about animals. Her genuine admiration warmed my heart. Natalie approached, glass of wine already in hand despite the early afternoon hour. You made it. And you brought a gift not on the list, I see. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Nice to see you too, Natalie. The party looks amazing. I tried to keep my tone light. She waved dismissively. James went overboard as usual. The unicorn was his idea. I told him we already had the prince's performers, but you know how he likes to show off. She took a long sip of wine. Mom and Dad should be here soon. Dad's back is acting up again, so they'll probably leave early. Before I could respond, Natalie was called away by the caterer with some urgent question about allergens in the food. I placed my gift on the designated table, noting it was significantly smaller than the mountain of pink packages already accumulated. Throughout the next hour, I observed interesting dynamics. James seemed stressed, checking his phone constantly, and having a heated whispered conversation with someone on a call behind the garage. Natalie refilled her wine glass several times, her laugh growing louder with each glass. Emily, despite being surrounded by friends and festivities, kept returning to check that I was still there, as if afraid I might disappear. During a princess performance that held the children captivated, I overheard Emily telling her friend, "My mom and dad are always working. Dad goes on business trips and Mom has her charity meetings. But my Aunt Abby lets me help with her cats when I visit." I found myself chatting with Sarah, a single mom whose daughter was in Emily's class. Unlike the other perfectly coiffed mothers in designer dresses, Sarah wore jeans and seemed genuinely down to earth. "So you're a veterinarian? That's fascinating," she said after I explained my specialty. "Cassie's been begging for a cat.
Any
Advice for a first-time pet owner?" We were deep in conversation about adoption options when Natalie suddenly appeared, inserting herself between us. Abby's quite the cat expert. Never found time for human relationships, but she knows everything. About felines, don't you, sis? Her words were slurred slightly, her smile tight. Sarah looked uncomfortable. I should check on Cassie. Nice meeting you, Abigail. She hurried away. Making friends with a divorced mom, how appropriate, Natalie smirked. Before I could respond, our parents arrived, immediately exclaiming over the extravagant decorations. "Natalie, this is absolutely wonderful," my mother gushed, kissing my sister's cheek. "Emily is so lucky to have such a creative mother," my father clapped James on the shoulder. "Quite the spread, son. You two really know how to throw a party." I received brief hugs and distracted greetings before they were whisked away by Natalie to meet some very important friends from the country club. The knot in my stomach tightened as I retreated to a quiet corner of the yard, watching the children play while feeling increasingly out of place in this celebration of excess. As the party progressed toward its peak, the children were herded into the lavishly decorated dining room for cake and presents. The dining table had been transformed with a pink satin tablecloth and centerpiece featuring cascading flowers and miniature crystal tiaras. Emily sat at the head of the table in a special chair decorated to look like a throne, a birthday crown perched atop her blonde curls. The adults gathered around the perimeter of the room, parents of Emily's friends, family members, and a few of Natalie and James's friends who had dropped by with gifts and congratulations. I found a spot near the back, trying to remain inconspicuous while still having a clear view of Emily's excited face. "Present time before cake," Natalie announced, clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. "Emily, sweetie, Daddy and I thought you should open your special gifts from family first, then your friends' gifts afterward." James began bringing presents to Emily one by one, starting with an enormous box from my parents. Emily tore into the wrapping paper to reveal an expensive dollhouse, an exact replica of Natalie and James's home, custom-made down to the miniature furniture that matched their actual decor. My mother beamed as Emily exclaimed over the tiny details. "We had it specially commissioned," my mother explained to the impressed onlookers. Nothing but the best for our granddaughter. Next came Natalie and James's gift, a child-sized electric luxury car that Emily could actually drive around their property, complete with working headlights and a sound system. The assembled parents murmured appreciatively at such extravagance while Emily jumped up and down with excitement. Several more family gifts followed, each more lavish than the last, until finally James picked up my modestly sized purple package. "And this one is from your Aunt Abigail," he said. Placing it in front of Emily, Emily carefully unwrapped the microscope set, her expression curious rather than immediately excited. As James helped her open the box and explained what it was, her eyes widened with genuine interest. "A real microscope, like scientists use," she gasped, examining the instrument. "And I can look at bugs and leaves and stuff from outside?" "Exactly," I said, stepping forward slightly. "I thought we could collect samples next time you visit. There's a whole hidden world to explore that you can't see with just your eyes." Emily's face lit up. "This is so cool. Can I bring it to school for show and tell? Mrs. Rodriguez says science is important for girls to learn." I noticed Natalie's expression darkening as Emily continued to examine the microscope with growing enthusiasm. The other expensive gifts sat forgotten as James helped her place a prepared slide under the lens. "Wow, I can see all the tiny parts of a flower," Emily exclaimed. "Thank you, Aunt Abby. This is amazing." That's when Natalie stepped forward, wine glass in hand. "Well, isn't that educational?" she said with a tight smile. "Trust Aunt Abby to give the one gift that requires homework." A few parents chuckled uncomfortably. "Speaking of Aunt Abby," Natalie continued, her voice carrying clearly across the now quiet room, "still playing house with your cats instead of having a real family? When are you going to grow up and join the adult world?" The room erupted in laughter, some genuine, some clearly uncomfortable. My parents smiled indulgently at Natalie's joke, my father shaking his head as if to say, "Those sisters and their teasing." "I mean, there's nothing wrong with being the crazy cat lady aunt," Natalie pressed on, encouraged by the laughter. "Someone has to fill that role in every family, right? But you do realize fur babies aren't actual children, don't you?" My face burned hot with humiliation. I felt every eye in the room on me, judging, pitying, or worst of all, amused at my expense. My stomach twisted into a tight knot, and I struggled to maintain my composure as memories flooded back. Natalie mocking my science fair project in front of her friends when I was 12. Natalie telling my first boyfriend I still slept with a nightlight at 15. Natalie announcing to extended family at Thanksgiving that I hadn't been asked to senior prom. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. The room seemed to spin slightly as Natalie continued. "I worry about you, sis. All those nights alone with just cats for company. It's not natural for a woman your age, right, Mom?" My mother gave an uncomfortable smile. "Well, everyone has their own path, but family is certainly a blessing we wish for Abigail to experience someday." Emily, bless her heart, looked confused by the adult's reaction. "But I love visiting Aunt Abby's cats. Luna lets me pet her now, and Aunt Abby teaches me cool stuff about animals. I want to be a cat doctor too when I grow up." "That's sweet, honey," Natalie said dismissively, "but you'll change your mind when you're older. You'll want a real family, like Mommy has." I couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to be closing in as tears threatened to spill over. "Excuse me," I managed to whisper. "Bathroom." I turned and fled the room, hearing Natalie call after me with false concern. "Oh, come on, Abby, it was just a joke." "Don't be so sensitive." In the privacy of Natalie's pristine guest bathroom, I gripped the marble countertop and stared at my reflection in the gilded mirror. My cheeks were flushed, eyes glassy with unshed tears. I took several deep breaths, trying to regain my composure. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and texted my best friend, Rachel. "Emergency at niece's birthday." Natalie humiliated me in front of everyone, made cat lady jokes. Everyone laughed. "Wanna die?" Rachel's response came almost immediately. "Those jerks. Your sister is toxic. Want me to call with fake emergency to get you out?" I typed back, "No, for Emily's sake, staying. We'll call later." Another text from Rachel. "You're worth 10 of your sister." Your cats are family. Your work saves lives. Hold your head high. Love you. I splashed cold water on my face, reapplied minimal makeup, and squared my shoulders. I wouldn't give Natalie the satisfaction of seeing me cry. For Emily's sake, I would endure the remaining hour of this party with dignity. When I returned to the dining room, cake was being served. I noticed several parents glancing my way and whispering. James caught my eye and mouthed sorry from across the table. Emily immediately abandoned her cake and ran to my side, microscope catalog in hand. "And Abby, can we look at my hair under the microscope next time I come over? The book says human hair looks super weird up close." I knelt down to her level, grateful for her innocent enthusiasm. "Absolutely. We can look at all kinds of things, hair, skin cells, even the tiny creatures in pond water." Emily stayed by my side for the remainder of the party, excitedly showing me the microscope accessories and asking questions about what different specimens might look like. Her loyalty was a small balm to my wounded spirit, though I could feel Natalie's disapproving gaze following us around the room. The drive home from Natalie's house was a blur. Once safely inside my car, the tears I'd been holding back all afternoon flowed freely. I sat in the parking lot of a grocery store for 20 minutes, sobbing until my chest hurt and my eyes burned. Every laugh, every pitying glance, every whisper played on repeat in my mind. Still playing house with your cats instead of having a real family? The question cut deep because it attacked not just my life choices but my very concept of family. My 3 cats weren't substitutes for children. They were living beings I had saved who brought joy and companionship to my life. Yet Natalie had reduced this relationship to something pathetic and worthy of mockery, and worse, everyone seemed to agree with her. As I finally composed myself enough to drive, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the road. The familiar route home seemed longer than usual, each mile giving me too much time to replay the humiliation and question my reactions. Should I have stood up for myself immediately, made a joke to deflect? Left the party entirely? When I finally reached my apartment building, the security guard in the lobby gave me a concerned look. "Rough day, Dr. Blake," he asked kindly. "You could say that, Marcus." I managed a weak smile. "Family stuff." "Well, those 3 furballs of yours will make it better. They always do." He nodded toward the elevator with understanding. The moment I opened my apartment door, my cats sensed something was wrong. Luna, usually the most reserved, came trotting over immediately, her one eye focused intently on my face. Milo appeared from the bedroom, his usual caution forgotten as he wound himself around my ankles. Even old Whiskers lifted his head from his favorite cushion and gave a questioning mop. I sank to the floor in the entryway, still in my coat, as Luna headbutted my chin and Milo sniffed my tear-stained cheeks. Whiskers made the effort to hobble over, settling his arthritic body against my leg with a comforting purr. Their unconditional acceptance broke something open inside me, and I cried again, not from humiliation this time, but from the stark contrast between their love and my family's judgment. After a shower and changed into comfortable clothes, I heated some leftover soup and curled up on the couch, cats arranged around me like furry guardians. I called Rachel as promised. "I've been waiting by the phone," she answered immediately. "Give me every excruciating detail so I can properly hate your sister for the next hour." I recounted the entire party, from Natalie's initial coolness to the final humiliation. Rachel listened without interrupting, occasionally making sounds of outrage. "That's emotional abuse, Abby," she said when I finished. "The way she deliberately set you up for public humiliation, the way your parents enable it, it's not normal sibling rivalry, it's toxic." "But she's my sister," I said weakly. "And I love Emily and Tyler. If I confront her, I might lose my relationship with them." "You already have a limited relationship because you're walking on eggshells," Rachel pointed out. "And what message does it send Emily if she sees her mom repeatedly disrespect you while you just take it? That's not the strong, independent aunt she admires." Rachel's words hit home. What example was I setting for my niece that women should silently accept disrespect to keep peace in the family? "I think it's time to establish some boundaries," Rachel continued. "You don't have to cut them off, but you can make it clear certain behaviors are unacceptable. You're successful, accomplished, and living a life many would envy. Stop letting them make you feel like the failure. After we hung up, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, cats following curiously from room to room. On my bookshelf sat awards from veterinary associations, framed articles I'd published in medical journals, and photos of animals I'd saved through pioneering treatments. My refrigerator displayed a drawing Emily had made of me in a superhero cape, saving all the kitties. Why did I allow my family to make me feel less than when, by any objective measure, my life was fulfilling and successful? I'd performed groundbreaking surgery on cats with certain cardiac conditions. I'd lectured at international conferences. I'd mentored dozens of young veterinarians who now practiced my techniques across the country. Yet somehow in my family's presence, these accomplishments evaporated. All that remained was their narrow definition of female success, marriage and children. I thought about societal pressures on women and how different but equally valid life paths were constantly compared and ranked. My colleagues with children struggled with guilt about time away from their kids while simultaneously feeling judged if they didn't advance their careers at the same pace as those without children. Single women like me faced constant questioning about our relationship status, as though personal fulfillment could only come through partnership. Had I internalized some of this judgment? Did some part of me believe Natalie's narrative that I was somehow incomplete without a traditional family? I never felt that way in my daily life, but family gatherings always left me questioning my choices. Sleep eluded me as I mentally reviewed my family history. The pattern clear as day now that I examined it. Natalie had always been validated for her social achievements, while my academic and professional accomplishments were treated as consolation prizes for not being as pretty or popular. My parents consistently took her side in conflicts, praising her conventional choices while expressing concern about my focus on education and career. As dawn broke, I sat by my living room window, watching Luna track a bird outside. Milo slept, curled against my leg while Whiskers dozed in a patch of early morning sunlight. In their company, I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced before. I deserved respect regardless of my life choices. My definition of family-chosen connections based on mutual respect and love was just as valid as Natalie's traditional model. And most importantly, I no longer needed to accept disrespect in the name of family harmony. In the week following Emily's birthday party, I threw myself into work with renewed focus. The busy schedule at the veterinary hospital provided welcome distraction from my family troubles, though Natalie's mocking voice occasionally intruded into my thoughts during quiet moments. Tuesday afternoon, I had a previously scheduled appointment with my therapist, Dr. Winters. We'd been working together for about 6 months, initially to address work-related stress, but our sessions had increasingly touched on my family dynamics. So your sister publicly humiliated you, your parents tacitly approved by their silence, and you're questioning whether you have the right to be upset? Dr. Winters summarized after I recounted the birthday party incident. Put that way, it sounded absurd. When you phrase it like that, how would you advise a friend in this situation? She asked. I'd tell them they deserve better treatment and should establish boundaries, I admitted. Yet you hesitate to do the same for yourself. Why is that? I considered the question carefully. I think I'm afraid of losing what little connection I have with my niece and nephew. And maybe some part of me still craves my parents' approval, even though I'm 34 years old. Dr. Winters nodded. Those are valid concerns. But consider this. What kind of relationship can you truly have when it's built on a foundation of disrespect? And what message does your silence send to Emily about how women should allow themselves to be treated? We spent the remainder of the session discussing healthy boundary setting and assertiveness techniques. Dr. Winters suggested researching family dynamics and recommended several books about toxic family relationships and adult sibling conflicts. That evening, I ordered the recommended books and spent hours reading articles about family systems and the roles we adopt in childhood that often persist into adulthood. The golden child and scapegoat dynamic between Natalie and I was textbook, according to several psychology websites. Thursday evening, my phone rang with an unexpected caller. Emily, My heart raced as I answered, worried something might be wrong. Aunt Abby, her small voice came through the speaker. Mom said I could call you for 5 minutes before bedtime. Emily, what a wonderful surprise. How are you, sweetheart? I miss you. When can I come see the cats again? I want to use my microscope to look at their fur. I've been practicing with stuff from our yard. My heart swelled at her enthusiasm. That sounds wonderful. I'll talk to your mom about setting up a visit soon. I use my microscope every day, she continued excitedly. Dad helped me look at salt crystals last night. They're squares. Did you know that? I did. Isn't it amazing how nature creates such perfect shapes? Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. Mom and Dad are fighting again. Dad sleeps in the guest room sometimes. I don't think they know I notice. My chest tightened. I'm sorry to hear that. Grown-ups sometimes have disagreements, but that doesn't mean they don't love you very much. Mom gets really mad when Dad misses dinner for work. She throws things sometimes. Emily's matter-of-fact tone broke my heart. I wish I could come live with you and the cats when they fight. Before I could formulate a response, I heard Natalie's voice in the background. Time's up, Emily. Say goodbye. I have to go. Love you, Aunt Abby. Tell Luna and Milo and Whiskers I said hi. The call ended, leaving me troubled. Natalie and James's marriage clearly wasn't the perfect union they portrayed publicly, and Emily was caught in the middle, noticing far more than her parents realized. Friday morning brought another surprise. A text from James. Can we meet for coffee? Need to talk. Don't tell Natalie. We arranged to meet at a cafe halfway between my workplace and his office. James arrived looking uncharacteristically disheveled. His normally perfect hair unstyled and dark circles under his eyes. Thanks for meeting me, he said, fidgeting with his coffee cup. I wanted to apologize for Natalie's behavior at the party. It was completely inappropriate. I appreciate that, I said cautiously, uncertain of his motives. James sighed heavily. Things aren't good at home, Abigail. Haven't been for a while. Natalie's drinking has increased, and she's become bitter, lashing out. You got the public version, but trust me, I get the private one daily. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, genuinely meaning it despite my complicated feelings toward my sister. Emily mentioned some tension. James looked alarmed. She's noticed. We've been trying to shield the kids. Children are perceptive. They pick up on more than we realize.
He nodded miserably. My business is struggling.
The economy's hit luxury. Car sales hard. We're not in financial trouble yet, but we've had to cut back on some expenses. Natalie hasn't adjusted well to the idea of budgeting. This explained the excessive party Natalie desperately maintaining appearances. I've always admired you, you know, James continued, surprising me. Your independence, your clear sense of purpose. Natalie wanted that once. She was going to study interior design before we got serious. Sometimes I wonder if her resentment toward you stems from the path not taken. That doesn't excuse her behavior, I said firmly. No, it doesn't, he agreed. I just wanted you to know it's not really about you. It's her own insecurities. And I wanted to make sure you still feel comfortable visiting Emily. She adores you. As our coffee meeting ended, James looked slightly relieved, having unburdened himself. I felt a new complexity added to my understanding of the situation. Natalie wasn't just a one-dimensional villain, but a troubled woman, possibly regretting her own choices. Saturday morning, a text arrived from my mother. Family dinner. Tomorrow night at our house. Your father misses you. No excuses this time. 6 p.m. sharp. The timing seemed suspicious after James's confession. Had he mentioned our meeting to Natalie? Was this dinner a peace offering or another opportunity for humiliation? I brought the dilemma to my Monday lunch with Dr. Patricia Lawson, the senior veterinarian who had mentored me throughout my career. At 62, Patricia had navigated a successful career while dealing with her own difficult family dynamics. Your mother's ignoring the elephant in the room, Patricia observed after hearing about the birthday incident and subsequent dinner invitation. Classic conflict avoidance. Should I go? I asked, picking at my salad. Only if you're prepared to set boundaries. she replied firmly. I faced something similar with my brother years ago. He constantly belittled my choice to focus on my career instead of having children. What did you do? I finally told him, I respect your life choices, even though they're different from mine. I expect the same courtesy. Then I walked out of Christmas dinner when he made another snide comment. She smiled at the memory. He called me 2 weeks later to apologize. We've had a respectful relationship ever since. Patricia placed her hand over mine. Your worth isn't determined by whether you follow traditional paths, Abigail. You've saved countless animals, advanced veterinary medicine, and mentored young doctors. That's a legacy to be proud of. By the time Sunday evening arrived, I had prepared myself mentally for the family dinner. I dressed carefully in a professional outfit that made me feel confident, a tailored blazer over a silk blouse, well-fitting trousers and low heels. I applied makeup with more care than usual and styled my hair. In my purse, I carried photos of awards ceremonies, thank you cards from grateful pet owners, and a particularly moving letter from a 10-year-old girl whose cat I had saved through an experimental procedure. These weren't props for bragging, but reminders to myself of my value and accomplishments. As I drove to my parents' house, I rehearsed potential responses to Natalie's comments. My life choices are valid, even if they're different from yours. I'd appreciate it if you'd speak to me with the same respect I show you. That comment is inappropriate and hurtful. I practiced deep breathing techniques Dr. Winters had taught me. Whatever happened tonight, I would maintain my dignity. For too long, I had allowed my family to make me feel small. Tonight, that would change. My parents' colonial-style home looked exactly as it had throughout my childhood, meticulously maintained exterior, seasonal wreath on the front door, and my mother's prized rose bush flanking the walkway. As I approached the entrance, memories flooded back, running through sprinklers on summer days. Building snowmen in the front yard, waiting anxiously for college acceptance letters at the kitchen table. Despite the complicated dynamics, this house had been my home for 18 years. Taking a deep breath, I rang the doorbell rather than using my key, a small act signifying I was now a visitor rather than a resident child. My father answered, his tall frame slightly stooped with age, silver hair thinning but still carefully combed. Abigail, he said, genuine warmth in his voice as he embraced me. Good to see you, kiddo. It's been too long. I returned his hug, the familiar scent of his aftershave momentarily transporting me back to simpler times. Hi, Dad. How's your back doing? Better this week. New physical therapist seems to know his stuff.
He ushered me inside. Everyone's in the living room.
Your mother made pot roast, your favorite. The living room fell silent as I entered. My mother rose from her armchair, smoothing her dress nervously. Abigail, dear, so glad you could make it. Her hug was brief, perfunctory. Natalie and James sat on the sofa, Emily between them looking bored while Tyler played a handheld game in the corner. The seating arrangement struck me as deliberately staged, the perfect family unit on display. Hello, everyone, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Emily jumped up immediately. Aunt Abby! I brought my microscope notes to show you. She rushed over, clutching a small notebook decorated with science stickers. Emily, let your aunt get settled first, Natalie admonished, her tone artificially sweet. She looked tense, wine glass already in hand. Nice of you to join us, Abby. No emergencies at the cat hospital tonight? And there it was, the first dig, barely 5 seconds into my arrival. In the past, I would have smiled awkwardly and let it slide. Tonight I met her gaze directly. The specialty veterinary hospital where I serve as department head has excellent coverage systems. My team is quite capable. My voice remained pleasant but firm. I turned my attention to Emily. I'd love to see your notes, sweetheart. Why don't you show me while Grandma finishes dinner? As Emily excitedly showed me her detailed drawings of salt crystals, pollen grains, and cat hair, James had indeed procured a sample from their neighbor's pet. I noticed my family exchanging glances at my unusually confident demeanor. Dinner began pleasantly enough, with my father discussing his golf game and my mother detailing her garden club's latest project. James contributed occasional comments about business while Natalie remained uncharacteristically quiet, refilling. her wine glass twice before the main course was served. Abigail, how is work? My mother eventually asked, her tone suggesting she was fulfilling an obligation rather than expressing genuine interest. Very fulfilling, actually, I replied. I've been developing a new surgical technique for cats with certain heart conditions. The journal article I wrote about it is being published next month. That's nice, dear, my mother said vaguely. Natalie, tell Abby about the charity gala you're chairing. I noticed the pattern immediately, deflecting from my professional accomplishment to highlight Natalie's social activities. It had happened countless times throughout our lives, but tonight it stood out in sharp relief. Natalie launched into a detailed account of the country club fundraiser she was organizing, emphasizing the prominent community members involved and the extensive media coverage expected. It's for children's literacy, she concluded. Something truly important. Emily, who had been quiet during this exchange, suddenly perked up. And Abby does important things too. She showed me how she fixed Luna's eye when she was a kitten. She saved her life. That's different, honey, Natalie said dismissively. Aunt Abby's work is just with animals. Animals matter too. Emily insisted, her small face serious. Of course they do, sweetie, James interjected, shooting Natalie a warning look. Aunt Abby does very important work. Speaking of animals, Natalie said, her words slightly slurred. How are the fur babies? Abby? Still your main companions on Saturday nights? When was your last actual date? Mom's been worried you'll end up alone with just cats for company when you're old. The table fell silent. My mother looked down at her plate, neither confirming nor denying Natalie's claim. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. James closed his eyes briefly in what appeared to be resignation. Time seemed to slow as I considered my response. The familiar shame and hurt bubbled up, but this time I didn't push it down. I acknowledged it, then set it aside. This was the moment I had prepared for. Natalie, I said calmly, placing my fork down and meeting her gaze directly. That comment, like the one you made at Emily's party, is deliberately hurtful and disrespectful. I've tolerated this behavior for years to keep peace in the family, but I'm done with that now. Natalie's eyes widened in surprise. This wasn't the script we usually followed. My life choices are different from yours, but they're equally valid, I continued. I've built a career saving animals, advancing veterinary medicine, and mentoring young doctors. I have deep friendships, travel adventures, and yes, loving relationships with my cats, who are family to me. Oh, come on, Natalie scoffed, though. I detected uncertainty in her voice. You can't compare cats to actual children. I'm not comparing anything. I'm stating that my life has value and meaning on its own terms. And I'm asking, no, requiring that you speak to me with the same respect I show you. My mother finally found her voice. Girls, please, let's not ruin a nice family dinner with... Mom? I interrupted gently but firmly. This conversation needs to happen. For years, you and Dad have enabled Natalie's disrespect toward me by staying silent or changing the subject. That silent approval stops tonight, too. My father looked startled. Abigail, I don't think we've ever... When is the last time you asked about my work with genuine interest? I asked him directly. When have either of you defended me when? Natalie makes these jokes at my expense? Your silence is a choice, Dad. The table fell into uncomfortable silence. Emily and Tyler watched, wide-eyed, unused to seeing adults in their family engage in direct conflict. You always think you're so perfect. Natalie suddenly spat, anger replacing her initial surprise. So superior, with your fancy degree and important career. You judge my choices while pretending to be above it all. I've never judged your choices. Natalie, I said evenly. I've supported your path even when it's different from mine. I've attended every major event in your life, brought thoughtful gifts for your children, and bitten my tongue through years of your thinly veiled insults. Because you pity me. Natalie's voice rose as she stood abruptly, wine sloshing in her glass. Poor Natalie, who peaked in high school. Poor Natalie, who just got married and had kids instead of saving the world one cat at a time. James reached for her arm. Natalie, that's enough. The kids. She jerked away from him. Don't touch me, you think she's perfect too. I've seen how you look at her, admiring her independence while resenting being tied down to me and the kids. The raw pain in her voice stunned me. This wasn't just about me. It was about Natalie's own regrets and insecurities that I'd somehow become the target for. Natalie, I said, more gently. I've never pitied you. I've envied aspects of your life too, your social ease, your beautiful children, your ability to create a home. But that doesn't give you the right to tear me down to feel better about your choices. Girls! My mother interjected desperately. Please stop this. We're family. We should support each other. That's exactly my point, Mom. I said, turning to her. Family should support each other. All members, not just the ones following traditional paths. You and Dad have always celebrated Natalie's choices while treating mine as temporary or second best. Do you realize you've never once visited my veterinary hospital? Never asked to see the research I published? Never acknowledged my professional achievements except as a consolation prize for not being married? My mother's face crumpled slightly. We didn't realize. We thought showing too much interest in your career might make you feel we were pushing you toward that instead of marriage and children, I finished for her. But that was never my dream, Mom. It was yours for me. My father cleared his throat. Abigail, your mother and I are from a different generation. We worried about you being alone. We thought Natalie's path would bring you more happiness. But I'm not alone, Dad. I have fulfilling relationships, just not the traditional kind you recognize. And I am happy, except when I'm made to feel inadequate for the choices that bring me fulfillment. Natalie had sunk back into her chair, tears streaming down her face. It's all falling apart anyway, she said bitterly. The perfect life you all think I have. James's business is struggling. We might have to sell the house. My friends only care about status. The drinking helps me cope with the emptiness. James put his arm around her, and this time she didn't pull away. We're in counseling, he admitted to the table at large. Have been for 3 months. We're trying to work through things. My parents looked shocked at these revelations. The carefully maintained facade of Natalie's perfect life was crumbling before their eyes. I'm sorry you're going through that, I said sincerely to both Natalie and James. And I'm here to support you, as family should. But that support can't come at the expense of my dignity anymore. Emily, who had been watching this adult drama unfold with wide eyes, suddenly got up from her seat and came to stand by my chair. I want to be like Aunt Abby when I grow up, she announced to the silent table. She helps animals and knows cool science stuff and isn't afraid to stand up for herself. Natalie looked at her daughter, then at me, something shifting in her expression. Emily really does adore you, she said quietly. She talks about you all the time. It makes me jealous sometimes that you have this special connection with her. She talks about you all the time too, I told her honestly. About how creative you are, how you make everything beautiful. She's proud to be your daughter, Natalie. For the first time in perhaps our entire adult lives, Natalie and I looked at each other without competition or judgment, just as sisters seeing each other clearly. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For the party, for tonight. For a lot of things. I'm setting boundaries, Natalie, not cutting you off, I clarified. I want a relationship with you and your family, but one based on mutual respect. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. I think we all need to do better, she admitted. Your father and I have played favorites, Abigail. We didn't realize how it affected you, and we've never properly acknowledged your accomplishments. My father added, that change is starting now. The tension in the room gradually dissipated as we began talking, really talking, perhaps for the first time. Natalie spoke candidly about her struggles with perfectionism and the pressure to maintain appearances. James admitted feeling trapped by financial expectations. My parents acknowledged their generational biases. As the evening drew to a close, I hugged Emily tightly. How would you like to come spend next Saturday with me and the cats? We can use the microscope to look at all kinds of interesting specimens. Can we really? She looked to her parents for confirmation. Natalie nodded. I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. As I prepared to leave, Natalie walked me to the door, while her parents helped James gather the children's things. This won't be fixed in one night, I said realistically. No, she agreed, but it's a start. I do envy your freedom sometimes, Abby, the choices you've been brave enough to make. And I've envied your certainty, I admitted. You always seemed to know exactly what you wanted, she laughed without humor. Appearances can be deceiving. I'm trying to figure out who Natalie is apart from being James's wife and the kid's mother. Maybe you could help me with that? I'd like that, I said, surprised to realize I genuinely meant it. As I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years. The boundaries I'd set might not always be respected, and old patterns wouldn't disappear overnight. But for the first time, I'd stood my ground and demanded the respect I deserved, not just for my family but for myself. The weeks following our family dinner brought subtle but meaningful changes to our dynamic. Initially, communication was somewhat awkward, text messages carefully worded, phone calls a bit stilted. We were all navigating unfamiliar territory after years of established patterns. Like a physical therapy patient relearning to walk, our family was developing new muscles and breaking old habits. My mother called the day after our confrontation, her voice hesitant. Abigail, I've been thinking about what you said. Your father and I would like to visit your hospital sometime. See where you work, if that's something you'd be comfortable with. This simple request, the expression of interest in my professional world, meant more than she could possibly know. We arranged for them to visit the following week, and I felt a nervous excitement I hadn't experienced around my parents in years. When they arrived at the veterinary hospital, I gave them a comprehensive tour, introducing them to my colleagues, showing them the state-of-the-art equipment, and explaining some of the groundbreaking procedures we performed. My father asked thoughtful questions about the business aspects of veterinary medicine, while my mother marveled at the specialized care we provided. I had no idea your work was so complex, she admitted as I showed them an MRI of a cat's brain. Tumor we had successfully removed. All these years I've been picturing you just giving shots and prescribing flea medicine. This is impressive, Abigail, my father added, genuine pride in his voice as he observed the respect my staff clearly had for me. You've built something significant here. The highlight came when an emergency case arrived, a cat in respiratory distress that required immediate intervention. My parents watched from the observation area as I led my team through a delicate procedure, communicating with calm authority and skilled precision. Afterward, when the cat was stabilized and the grateful owner was thanking me through tears, I caught my parents exchanging a look of newfound understanding. You save lives, my mother said simply as we walked to the parking lot. Different lives than we might have imagined, but lives nonetheless. Emily, true to our arrangement, began regular video calls to share her microscope discoveries. Every Tuesday evening, she would excitedly connect to show me her latest specimens: a blade of grass, a butterfly wing, a drop of pond water teeming with microorganisms. Aunt Abby, I found something moving in this water from our bird bath, she exclaimed during one call, her face illuminated with wonder. Are they aliens? I laughed. Not aliens, sweetheart. Those are probably paramecia or amoeba single-celled organisms that live in water. They're some of Earth's simplest life forms. Her questions were insightful, her curiosity boundless. I found myself looking forward to these calls as much as she did, our shared enthusiasm for discovery creating a special bond between us. The first Saturday of Emily's visit to my apartment was a day I'll always treasure. James dropped her off in the morning, lingering awkwardly in my doorway. Nice place, he commented, looking around with genuine interest. It suits you. Thanks, I replied, still getting used to this new, more authentic interaction with my brother-in-law. Emily hasn't stopped talking about this visit all week, he confided. And Natalie she's really trying, Abigail. The therapy seems to be helping. She's cut back on the drinking. I'm glad to hear that, I said sincerely. How's the business doing? He shrugged. We're restructuring some things. It's stressful, but we'll weather it. Actually, I wanted to ask your advice about diversifying our investments. Your financial management skills seem pretty solid. This simple acknowledgement that I might have wisdom to offer in areas beyond veterinary medicine represented a significant shift in how my family viewed me. James and I arranged to meet for coffee the following week to discuss financial strategies, a professional exchange between equals rather than awkward small talk between in-laws. Emily's day with the cats exceeded all expectations. Luna, normally standoffish with strangers, allowed Emily to gently stroke her head while examining her fur samples under the microscope. Milo performed his repertoire of tricks for treats, delighting Emily with his intelligence. Even old Whiskers emerged from his favorite napping spot to investigate our activities, purring loudly when Emily found just the right spot behind his ears. Cats are so smart, Emily observed as we examined Whiskers' fur under magnification. Mom always said they were just animals, but they understand things, don't they? They do, I agreed. They have different ways of communicating than humans, but they're intelligent, emotional beings. That's why I love helping them. Emily was quiet for a moment, contemplating this. And Abby, is it okay if I want to be different when I grow up, not like mom or grandma? My heart swelled with protective love for this perceptive child. Emily, the most important thing is to be true to yourself. Some people will try to tell you there's only one right way to be happy, but that's not true. Happiness looks different for everyone. Mom seems happier lately, she observed. She and Dad don't fight as much, and she asked me about my microscope yesterday. She never did that before. This casual comment revealed so much about the changes happening in Natalie's approach, small steps, but meaningful ones. As promised, I met James for coffee to discuss financial planning. Our conversation evolved beyond money matters to his career aspirations and frustrations. I never wanted to sell cars, he confessed. My father built the business, expected me to take over. What I really wanted was to teach history.
It's
not too late, you know, I pointed out. There are many ways to incorporate your passion into your life, even if it's not your primary career. He nodded thoughtfully. That's what I admire about you, Abigail. You built a life around what matters to you, not what others expected. It wasn't always easy, I admitted, but ultimately very worth it. James became an unexpected ally in the shifting family dynamic, often reaching out with questions about Emily's growing interest in science or articles he thought might interest me professionally. Our relationship, once distant and defined only through Natalie, developed its own foundation of mutual respect. The most surprising evolution came in my relationship with Natalie herself. 3 weeks after our confrontation, she suggested meeting for coffee at a quiet cafe halfway between our homes. I agreed with cautious optimism. She arrived looking different, less perfectly coiffed, more natural. The designer handbag and status symbols were notably absent. She ordered herbal tea instead of her usual wine, even though alcohol was available. This is hard for me, she began bluntly, admitting I was wrong. Looking at my own insecurities. My therapist says I've been projecting my dissatisfaction onto you for years. That sounds about right, I said, appreciating her directness. The thing is, Abby, she continued, I made all the right choices according to our parents and society. Marriage, children, beautiful home, charity work. I checked all the boxes. And then I looked around and realized I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. It's never too late to find yourself again, I offered. That's what I'm trying to do. She stirred her tea uncomfortably. Watching you stand up for yourself at dinner, it made me realize how much I've compromised to meet others' expectations. I don't even know if I like hosting charity galas. I just do it because it's expected. What would you do if expectations weren't a factor? I asked. She looked surprised by the question. I don't know, that's the problem. I need to figure that out. She hesitated, then added, I've signed up for an interior design course online, just one evening a week. It's what I was interested in before everything. Natalie, that's wonderful. I said, genuinely pleased for her. James has been supportive, and I wanted to thank you for being kind to him.
He respects you a lot. She met my eyes directly.
I've been jealous of that too. How easily you connect with Emily and James, but I'm trying to see it differently now as a blessing for them. rather than a threat to me. These weren't magical transformations. Natalie still occasionally made thoughtless comments, old habits emerging in moments of stress. But now she would catch herself, sometimes apologize, other times simply redirect. Baby steps toward authentic sisterhood. My parents too showed gradual changes. My father called to discuss an article about veterinary medicine he'd read in his medical journal. My mother sent a small package containing newspaper clippings of successful women in science. With a note, reminded me of you. So proud. Small gestures that would have seemed insignificant to outsiders, but represented seismic shifts in our family's patterns. The most profound changes, however, occurred within me. The confidence I discovered the night I stood my ground remained. And grew stronger. I found myself speaking up more in professional settings, presenting my ideas with conviction. Mentoring younger women veterinarians with emphasis on work-life balance defined on their own terms. Social gatherings became less anxiety-inducing as I stopped measuring my worth through others' judgments. When questioned about my personal life, I responded with genuine contentment rather than defensive justifications. I'm fulfilled by my career, my relationships, and yes, my cats. My family looks different than some, but it's no less real or meaningful. 2 months after our confrontation, we gathered for my father's birthday dinner. The atmosphere was noticeably different, more relaxed, more authentic. Natalie had prepared a simple meal rather than an elaborate showcase. Emily proudly showed everyone the science award she'd won at school. Tyler demonstrated his new interest in drawing. James discussed the history lecture series he'd begun attending at the local university. My mother helping me clear plates in the kitchen, paused suddenly. I want you to know, Abigail, that your father and I are truly proud of you. Not despite your choices, but because of them. You've had the courage to live authentically. I wish we had supported that more from the beginning. We can't change the past, Mom, I said gently, but we're creating a better future. When I returned home that evening to my apartment, my 3 cats greeted me with their usual rituals. Luna's dignified approach for head scratches, Milo's exuberant weaving between my ankles, Whisker's contented purr from his cushion. I sat on my couch, cats arranging themselves around me, and felt a profound sense of peace. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Aunt Abby, I told my science teacher I want to be a veterinarian like you. She's helping me research what classes I need to take in high school. Can I interview you for my career day project? This simple message encapsulated everything I had fought for, the right to be respected for my choices, to serve as a positive example for the next generation, to define success on my own terms rather than through others' expectations. Life rarely offers perfect resolutions. My family still had moments of tension, old patterns occasionally resurfacing. Natalie still struggled with her personal demons. My parents still sometimes made comments revealing their generational biases. But beneath these imperfections ran a new current of respect and understanding, the foundation for healthier relationships moving forward. The journey from public humiliation to empowerment taught me that true family connects through mutual respect, not obligation or conformity. Success isn't measured by checking society's boxes, but by building a life aligned with your authentic self. And sometimes standing up for yourself isn't just an act of self-preservation. It's a gift to everyone involved, opening doors to more honest, meaningful connections. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't respect your life choices? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength through difficult family dynamics. Remember, you deserve respect no matter what path you choose in life. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I hope it gives you courage to honor your own authentic path.